All right. This is an interesting sort of different type of thing where, let me just check that all my stuff is going. So basically, I am thinking about doing a translation, or rather a narration of Chapman's Iliad, the version of the Iliad that was translated by Chapman back in Shakespearean times. And I really love this version, but as far as I know, nobody's ever done a like actual audiobook of it that's like available anywhere. And mostly I just really want to hear an audiobook of it. So it's pretty much the reason I do any audiobook is for that reason. So this isn't me recording the actual audiobook, but this is I want to see if I can get I want to do a few practice ones before I attempt it, because this is going to be a tricky one. It's not necessarily very straightforward language at all. So let's give it a shot. To anybody who doesn't read that many translations of the Iliad from earlier than like 100 years ago, this, like all translations of the Iliad from that time, uses the Roman names for the gods, which, you know, a lot of people nowadays complain about that, but it's like, that's what they did back then. There's no getting around that. So that's what it is. And you'll see that in the rhyming scheme, you can't really separate the Roman names from the beauty of the language that Chapman's written. So I'm going to skip the argument here, which is in a different rhyming meter than otherwise. And we'll just go in here. Also, just for full disclosure, I'm like in a hotel room and I have my mic, but I don't have my setup. You can see this, I'm just holding it. It's not on the stand, or I don't have a windscreen or soundproofing or anything. So it's not going to sound as good as when I do an actual audiobook. But I'm not doing this to record something like for final. I'm doing it to see if I can, you know, it's more of like a practice thing to see if I can get the rhythm down. Also, I'm not doing this as like a performance, in the sense that like it's for audiobook recording style practice. So, which is to say that like if I want to do another take on a line, I'll do it. I'm not doing it like for the viewers, you know, not doing it for the viewer to like fully comprehend, but rather the way I would do it when I'm doing an audiobook. This has like a different type of purpose. It's not just like me doing Chapman's Iliad. But hopefully if I ever end up doing an audiobook of Chapman's Iliad, then you'll be able to hear me do it without retakes or flubs. The text you're looking at is from the Internet Archive. It's an edition of the book that's from the 1800s, which is to say that it is redistributable at this point. Here we go. Book 1. Achilles' Wrath. Whoa, off to a good start. Here we go. Achilles' baneful wrath resound, O goddess, that imposed infinite sorrows on the Greeks, and many brave souls loosed from breast heroic, sent them far to that invisible cave that no light comforts, and their limbs to dogs and vultures gave, to all which Jove's will gave effect, from whom first strife begun, to all which Jove's will gave effect, from whom first strife begun, betwixt Atrides, king of men, and Thetis, godlike son. What god gave Eris their command, and oped that fighting vein? Jove's and Latona's son, who fired against the king of men, for contumely What god gave Eris their command, and oped that fighting vein? Jove's and Latona's son, who fired against the king of men, for contumely shown his priest infectious sickness sent, to plague the army, and to death by troops the soldiers went. Occasioned thus, Chryses the priest came to the fleet to buy, for presents of unvalued price, his daughter's liberty, the golden scepter and the crown of Phoebus in his hands, proposing, and made suit to all, but most to the commands of both the Atreides, who both... I gotta move my mouse over here so I can scroll. To the commands of both the Atreides, who most ruled. Great Atreus' sons, said he, and all ye well your... Great Atreus' sons, said he, and all ye well-grieved Greeks, the gods whose habitations be in heavenly houses, grace your powers with Priam's raised town, and grant ye happy conduct home, to win which wished renown of Jove. By honoring his son, far-shooting Phoebus, deign for these fit presents to dissolve the ransomable chain of my loved daughter's servitude. The Greeks entirely gave glad acclamations for signs that their desires would have the grave priest reverenced, and his gifts of so much price embraced. The general yet bore no such mind, but viciously disgraced with violent terms the priest, and said, Dotard, avoid our fleet, where lingering be not found by me, nor thy returning feet let ever visit us again, lest nor thy godhead's crown nor scepter save thee. Her thou seekest, I still will hold mine own, till age deflower her. In our court Argos, far transferred, from her loved country she shall ply her web, and see prepared with all fit ornaments my bed. Incense me then no more, but if thou wilt be safe, be gone. This said, the sea-beat shore, obeying his high will, the priest trod off with haste and fear, and walking silent till he left far off his enemy's ear, Phoebus fair-haired Latona's son he stirred up with a vow to this stern purpose. Hear thou God that bearest the silver bow, that Chrysa guardest, rules Tenedos with strong hand, and the round of Scylla most divine dost walk. O Smintheus, if crowned with thankful offerings thy rich fane I ever saw, or fired fat thighs of oxen and goats to thee, this grace desired vouchsafe to me. Pains for my tears let these rude Greeks repay, forced with thy arrows. Thus he prayed, and Phoebus heard him pray. And vexed at heart, down from the tops of steep heaven stooped. His bow and quiver covered round, his hands did on his shoulders throw, and of the angry deity the arrows he moved, the arrows as he moved rattled about him. Like the night he ranged the host and roved, apart the fleet set terribly. With his hard-loosing hand his silver bow twanged, and his shafts did first the mules command, and swift hounds. Then the Greeks themselves his deadly arrows shot. The fires of death never went out. 9 days his shafts flew hot about the army, and the 10th Achilles called a court, cut short. So this translation has a weird thing where the this part in brackets applies to the line underneath, the end of the line underneath. I'm going to have to find a different edition of this because that's really hard to read. flew hot about the army. And the 10th Achilles called a court of all the Greeks, heaven's white-armed queen, who everywhere cut short, beholding her loved Greeks by death suggested it, and he, all met in one, arose and said, Atrides, now I see, we must be wandering again. Flight must still be our stay, if flight can save us now. At once sickness and battle lay such strong hands on us. Let us ask some prophet or priest, or prove some dream interpreter. Let us ask some prophet, priest, or prove some dream interpreter. For dreams are often sent from Jove. Why Phoebus is so much incensed? If unperformed vows he blames in on us or hecatombs, if these knees he bows to death may yield his graves no more, but offering all supply of savours burnt from lambs and goats, avert his fervent eye, and turn his temperate. Thus he sat, and then stood up to them Calchas, surnamed Thestorides, of augurs the supreme. He knew things present, past, to come, and ruled the equipage of the Argive fleet to Ilion, for his prophetic rage given by Apollo. And ruled the equipage, I don't like that rhyme, and ruled the equipage of the, actually that might be the way to pronounce that word. Well, and ruled the equipage of the Argive fleet to Ilion, for his prophetic rage given by Apollo, who, well seen in the ill they felt, proposed this to Achilles. Jove's beloved, would thy charge see disclosed the secret of Apollo's wrath? Then covenant and take oath to my discovery that with words and powerful actions both, thy strength will guard the truth in me, because I well conceive that he whose empire governs all, whom all the Grecians give, confirmed obedience, will be moved. And then you know the state of him that moves him, when a king hath once marked for his a man inferior, though that day his wrath seems to digest the offence he takes, yet evermore he rakes up in his breast hate. In this case, the bracketed line is above, not below. That makes it even way more complicated to read this edition of the book. I gotta go look for another edition of this Chapman's Iliad here. Of him that moves him, when a king hath once marked for his hate a man inferior, though that day his wrath seems to digest the offence he takes, yet evermore he rakes up in his breast the fire reserved. Tell me then, if whatsoever ire suggests in hurt of me to him, thy valour will prevent? Achilles answered, All thou knowest speak, and be confident, for by Apollo, Jove's beloved, to whom performing vows, O Calchas, for the state of Greece, thy spirit prophetic shows skill that direct us. Not a man of all these Grecians here, I living and enjoying the light shot through this flowery sphere, shall touch thee with offensive hands. Though Agamemnon be the man in question that doth boast the mighty, mightiest empery of all our army. Then took heart the prophet, unreproved, and said, They are not unpaid vows nor hecatombs that moved the god against us, His offense is for the priest impaired by Agamemnon, that refused the present he preferred, and kept his daughter. This is cause why the heaven's far darter darts these plagues amongst us, and this still will empty in our hearts his deathful quiver, uncontained, till her loved sire, the black-eyed damsel, be resigned. No redemptory hire took for her freedom, not a gift, but all the ransom quit, and she conveyed with sacrifice till her enfranchised feet tread Chrysa under. Then the gods, so pleased perhaps we may move to remission. Thus he sate, and up, the great in sway, heroic Agamemnon rose, eagerly bearing all. His mind's seat, overcast with fumes, and anger general, filled all his faculties. His eyes sparkled like kindling fire, which sternly cast upon the priest. Thus vented he his ire. Prophet of ill, for never good came from thee towards me, not to a word's worth. Evermore thou took'st delight to be offensive in thy auguries, which thou continuest still, now casting thy prophetic gall and vouching all our ill. Shot from Apollo is imposed, since I refuse the price of fair Chryseis' liberty, which would in no worth rise to my hate, rate of herself, which moves my vows to have her home, past Clytemnestra loving her, that graced my nuptial room with her virginity and flower, nor ask her merits less for person, disposition, wit, and skill in housewiferys. And yet for all this she shall go, if more conducible that course be than holding her here. I rather wish the weal of my loved army than the death. Provide yet instantly supply for her, that I alone of all our royalty lose not my winnings. 'Tis not fit. Ye see, all I lose mine, forced by another, see as well some other may resign his prize to me. To this replied the swift-foot, godlike son of Thetis thus. King of us all, in all ambition, most covetous of all that breathe, why should the great-souled Greeks supply thy lost prize out of theirs? Nor what thy avarice seeks our common treasury can find. So little it doth guard of what our razed town yielded us, so little it doth guard of what our razed town yielded us, of all which most is shared, were ignominious and base. Now then, since God commands, part with thy most loved prize to him, not any one of us exacts it of thee, yet we all loss thou sufferest thus, will treble, quadruple in gain, when Jupiter bestows the sack of well-walled Troy on us, which by his word he owes. Do not deceive yourself with wit, he answered, godlike man, though your good name may color it. 'Tis not your swift foot can outrun me here, nor shall the gloss set on it with the god persuade me to my wrong. Wouldst thou maintain in sure abode thine own prize, and slight me of mine? Resolve thus, if our friends, as fit in equity my worth, will right me my amends, as fits in equity my worth will right me with amends, so rest it. Otherwise myself will enter personally on thy prize, that of Ithacus or Ajax, for supply. Let him on whom I enter rage, but come. We'll order these hereafter, and in other place. Now put to sacred seas our black sail. In it rowers put, in it fit sacrifice, and to these I will make ascend so much envied prize, bright-cheeked Chryseis, for conduct of all which we must choose a chief out of our counselors. Thy service we must use, Idomeneus, Ajax thine, or thine, wise Ithacus, or thine, thou terriblest of men, thou son of Peleus. All right, not so bad. I think, so it's tough because it's a rhyming verse translation, as you can obviously tell, but it bothers me when people are too complacent about the rhyming scheme that they don't really think about the way the sentences fit. Because if you look, I think you can see my mouse, like if you look at this, sometimes it ends with a comma or a period, so it's fully punctuated, and you should end the line or the rhyme as you're ending the line. But somehow, or sometimes rather, like, when Jupiter bestows the sack of well-walled Troy on us, that's one sentence. So, like, you can hit the rhyme, but you don't make it seem like that's the end of the, like it's really an end of the line. Like, I'm trying not to read it, at least, where it's like every line ending hits, like as if it's just one big droning rhyming thing. You know, we'll treble, quadruple in gain when Jupiter bestows the sack of well-walled Troy on us, which by his word he owes. Do not deceive yourself with wit, he answered, godlike man. Through your good name, though your good name may color it, 'tis not your swift foot can outrun me here, nor shall the gloss set on it with the god persuade me to my wrong. Wouldst thou maintain in sure abode? Like, it's too... that doesn't have any understanding of what is being said and who's talking. Because also characters are switching between dialogue and ending sentences, ending thoughts in the middle of lines. So I'm trying to do it where you can still gain a semblance of what is said, and I'm preserving the rhythm and still hitting the rhymes, but not doing it where it's just a slave to the meter, because I think that's whenever I hear a translation like that's very hard to read, because it's clearly doesn't understand the subject. And the thing that is interesting to me with it, like, it's a hard translation to read. If you've never read the Iliad, wouldn't recommend reading this one first, unless you're like really familiar with Shakespearean stuff. But I find this one to be really engaging and really, really beautifully done. Possibly even more than Pope's Iliad, which I also really love, because the rhyming scheme is more complex and it's more interesting to read to me. But I don't know yet which one I like better. But yeah, I would like to do an audiobook one of this. It's I produce my audiobooks independently, and sometimes I publish them myself. And for this one, it's out of the copyright or whatever, because it's from so long ago. As long as I use it as the base, a published edition that is from that long ago, and I can't find anybody who's published a audiobook of this, and I would like to do it. It's probably best, like, this type of Shakespearean language usually wants to be read by somebody with an English accent, but I can't do anything about that. So I would be hoping readers would forgive me for the way I grew up with an American accent. But yeah, I think that turned out okay. I would like to give it another couple of shots for practice, like to really dig into trying to preserve that thing I was describing, where it's like keeping the rhyming scheme, but also really making it coherently convey the story. I think I could do better. So we'll see. Apologies again for if there's any audio quality issues, because I'm not like in my studio. I have my microphone in my suitcase and I'm in a hotel, so we'll see with that stuff. But yeah, turned out all right. Cool. Well, we'll keep going with this whenever I do another one.